is the acronym for the American Albacore Fishing Association, and it's a very transparent, non-profit association that gives a voice to the U.S. pole and troll fishermen. It's truly an association that solely represents the U.S. pole and troll fishermen. And the goals when we founded AFA was to market, promote, and stabilize the price for the fishermen. Give the fishermen and the U.S. fishing families, which are all small businesses up and down our coast, all of them are small businesses, give them some, empower them to build stronger businesses, be more profitable, and encourage the next generation to follow my husband's footsteps, my grandfather's footsteps, and all these courageous, heroic fishermen and women that are out there catching albacore one at a time with the pole. Because if you don't make that a brighter future, then young people won't learn from these wonderful people, and this fishery will die. There's no doubt. My father was taught how to fish by my grandfather, and when he met my husband for the first time, he looked at my husband and said, "You're in a dying fishery." And that was very profound to me, because when he said those words, he didn't mean that the fish were going away, the albacore. He meant that young people were not going into the fishery. Our average age of our fishermen are in the mid-40s. We need to get the 20-year-olds saying, hey, you know, we want to learn how to do that. We can make a living. This is great. I love being on the ocean. But my grandfather needs to teach me, or my father needs to teach me. And so, because we weren't even seeing grandfathers and fathers and mothers encouraging their own children to go into the fishery because of the instability of it. So AFA was formed to build stability and create a future by marketing, promoting, and educating about this fishery. Well, the MSC, which is the acronym for the Marine Stewardship Council, is a non-profit international organization that promotes and certifies management and sustainability of a specific fishery. And once you've fulfilled their process, you can utilize an eco label, the MSC eco label. Well, the certification we've been working on for almost 5 years, because initially you pursue a pre-assessment where you hire a third-party scientific team who pre-assesses your fishery, and at that time it's confidential, because if you don't score very well, it's confidential to that point. So once you get your pre-assessment back, then you have a pretty good feeling of how the long, full assessment process is going to take, the outcome. You hire a third-party contractor, which again is a scientific body from all parts of the world. Our contractor was Moody Marine, who's from the UK. He contracted with scientists here in the US, and they look at your harvest method, which is very important, ours being pole and troll. They look at the health of the stock, which is albacore, which is highly migratory. So you have to look at all the different arms that manage this highly migratory species. As my husband says, they don't have an address. So you have to look at the health of the stock through all different branches of management. And they look at the management, and they look at how your harvest affects the ecosystem. And do you have bycatch? Do you catch seabirds, sea turtles, other forms of seafood in your harvest? And that's very important too, because the ecosystem and the health of it obviously is paramount. It was the first and only certified tuna fishery in the world. We hear, of course it's confidential again, of other tuna fisheries and pre-assessment. Now the pole and troll method is hundreds of years old, and it's US, it's wonderful, but very few US consumers and citizens know this fishery even exists, or these wonderful fishing families and these fishermen that have just withstood a tremendous amount of hardship to still do what they do. But in Spain they have a pole and troll fishery, in South Africa, in Africa they do, in Australia they do. But again, it's a small niche of that method compared to pursaning and long lining of albacore, which is produces a tremendous amount of more tonnage than the pole and troll method. Well, there's two methods that our vessels use. Either it's jig poles, where they troll jigs, and I'm using terminology that maybe is not very familiar, but if you ever sport fish, they use the same jigs or similar. And when the albacore comes up on a jig and bites a jig, they actually pull them in by hand. It's a hand. Now my husband and some of our other vessels, it's called the bait fishing, and jack pulling, where they actually drag jigs also, and they look for fish on their meters, and they utilize bait to increase the harvest amount. And they're actually in a rack extended past the stern of the boat, so they're actually below the water line, going in and out of the swell. And they have called jack poles with barbless hooks, and they chum the bait. It's so amazing when you watch our movie, and you can go to www.americanalbacore.com to watch the movie. And even the swing of the bait chummer, which my husband says is the most important guy on the boat, is the same as it was, 50, 60 years ago. It's amazing to keep that school of fish at the stern, and then and it's an art. It's truly an art, because they hit the water and they get the school going the way they want it, and they hook it, swing it over their shoulder, pops off the hook in a perfect world, and then they put it down to the refrigeration system. And so it's one at a time. No other species are harvested or caught, and it's great. It's an awesome thing to watch. It's true. Everyone who sees it says, God, I want to go, I want to go. No, you need to think about it. It's really hard work. When we formed AFA, these fishermen, they were so controlled by the commodity pricing of tuna worldwide. And this harvest method is so unique and so good for the environment, and harvests a tremendously health benefit tuna for us to eat. And we've always lumped into tuna. And we needed to highlight the attributes of our fishing method and the resource we harvested to the U.S. as well as the world. And MSC, the Eco Label, is one of those building blocks to just let the world know, hey, we're here. Look at all the good things that we do, and we're commercial fisheries, but we need your help. We need your support. We need you to ask for our fish, because it's a better choice than some of the other choices on the shelf or in your seafood case. Ask for our fish. And by looking for the label, identifies our products. And so customers can go out and say, I'm going to look for that label, because I want to make sure, number one, the fish I'm buying is the fish I'm buying, and not some other fishes in that package, which is really important because of the traceability back to the vessel, the chain of custody, from the shelf back to the vessel. That's awesome. And also that it's a sustainable seafood. I want to make sure wild albacore are around for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren, so I'm going to spend the few more cents it takes to support a sustainable seafood. And that Eco Label is something we all should look for. I grew up in Point Loma, and Point Loma was a fishing community of Portuguese immigrants and Italians, and my father was a Spaniard. They called him the crazy Spaniard. And I remember growing up, my dad would come in, and all of us kids would go down and see him, and he'd stay in for the holidays. He'd go back out, and we all say our teary goodbyes, and it was seeing our dad off, and it was woven in our life, and it was a community of families who supported the community of fishing, and the canneries were here, and it was a wonderful, wonderful, passionate weaving of people and economics. And then the canneries all left, and all the fishing boats went foreign flag. So there's our controls. They're all from foreign countries now. And by preserving the pole and troll fishery through AFA, and supporting and asking for pole and troll cod albacore, you're not only preserving the fishery, but the families, the communities, the trickle-down economics for all those coastal communities up and down from San Diego to Washington State. And all the consumer needs to do is make the choice to support those fisheries. And you go to Point Loma now, there's no sign of fishermen left. There's a bronze at Shelter Island showing jack pulling, and that's it. And that's so sad, because we lost, whole culture is gone. And I, for one, don't want to be dependent on foreign fish like we're dependent on foreign oil. And I don't know many U.S. consumers that do. And if we don't support our sustainable U.S. fisheries, we will be dependent on foreign seafood. And that, to me, is a scary thought.